Welcome back to another episode of the Cast Patrol podcast. We are privileged to be joined by another special guest today. We are joined by former South Sydney Rabbitohs star and current Redcliffe Dolphins front row forward, Mark Nicholls, aka The GOAT. Mr. Mark Nicholls, welcome to the show, and how are we today?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, boys. I'm going good. Excited to be here. Keen to see what you've got in store for me.
We got a massive episode in store for you. Thanks for coming on. We appreciate you giving us your time. How is it up there in sunny Redcliffe? You missing Sydney or?
Yeah, you missing us, the South Sydney Rabbitohs, or what?
I'll always miss Redfern, but it is nice up here. It's great weather and a little bit less hectic than Sydney, so it's been enjoyable so far.
No, that's good to hear. Yeah, we're missing you down here, but how is it in terms of the vibes around camp, pre-season? Is Wayne Bennett flogging you guys already?
No, Wayne always looks after us, especially the older blokes. So it's obviously been exciting. It's been tough to try and remember everyone's names. And normally you're either sort of going into a team where everyone knows everyone, and you only sort of there's a few new guys, or you're already in a team and there's a few new guys that come and you pretty quickly learn everyone's names, or you can ask for some help off someone. But up here, we're all new, so you sort of ask someone, who's that again? And they go, I
don't know. When did he sign?
Yeah, we're learning on the fly, but it's good.
Well, if you can remember anyone's name, is there anyone that's impressed you so far at training?
I'll have to dob me mate in from Cowboys, Tommy Gilbert. He's pretty fit and he's pretty strong, and I guess you can probably see why he had the year he had last year playing Origin, and I think he'll be important for us this year. Hopefully, he can go to another level because he's only young, so he's still got his best footy ahead of him.
Especially the back end of the year, he was playing some incredible footy, and hopefully it carries into the 2023 season. In terms of moving to the Dolphins, obviously we've touched on it. You moved from our beloved team. We're still sad.
No hard feelings.
But what sort of factors influenced your decision to move to the Dolphins for their inaugural season?
That's one of the, I guess, things I considered was a new team. I guess that chance to be part of history. I was at the Raiders and the Storm, earlier in my career, and both those teams spoke about the original guys, because there's sort of, I guess, recent teams compared to Souths. No one was around when the first 1908 team ran out, but they both talked about the foundations that that first team laid for the success that they had. Sort of, pretty soon after they came into the comp, both Melbourne and Melbourne was the second year, and then Raiders 89, 90 they started having early 90s, had a lot of success. So they spoke about those original guys, so that was certainly a factor. I guess coming towards the end of my career, thinking about what happens next. We had a chance to live in Queensland last year and quite enjoyed the lifestyle that was on offer up here. And funnily enough, I said to my wife at the end of our bubble, I could probably live in Queensland, and she said, yeah, me too. And then obviously we had no idea that the Dolphins were on the radar, but a couple months later, I was signing to play for the Dolphins, and I was very lucky. I actually still had a year to go at South, and I'd had the conversation when I re-signed about, it was possibly going to be my last contract at South, so I actually had a transition to retirement job lined up. So there was sort of, I guess, where we were at with myself and South, and we had an honest conversation that what happens if someone came in and gave me the contract that I haven't had my whole career basically, and they said that they'd let me go if that happened, and it ended up happening. So I'll always be grateful for JD and Ello and Blake Solly for, I guess, keeping their word.
That's good to hear that you got a bit of security, like you said, a year before, like the next season. How many years is it? A 1 year or 2 year deal?
No, 2 years. So
2 year deal.
I guess for me, probably I mostly signed 1 year deals my whole career, and then When Wayne was there, he sort of gave me my first 2-year contract for a long time, and then JD backed it up last year, and my old mate Wayne come to the party again for extend my career for another year, and it means I don't have to get a real job. So
not yet. Has Wayne given you the nod for the starting front row spot? Has he given you any indication?
Nah, not yet. We haven't done a lot of footy yet. We've still got a lot of, I guess, our senior players, getting a bit more of a break from the World Cup. And as I said, being in a new team, we're sort of doing a lot of basic stuff at the moment. We haven't done a lot of, a lot of 13 on 13. It's sort of all been skill development and physical development. So I'm sure as we roll into the end of this month and then into trials in February, Wayne might give me the wink and
Yeah, you're the starting front row in our eyes. But as a leader, do you have any short-term or long-term goals for the club?
Oh, yeah, I guess, it's not lost on me that, Wayne has brought a few of us older guys, into the organisation to sort of set a bit of an example. We've got a lot of, Redcliffe have got a lot of juniors. You can now play under sixes at Redcliffe and if you're good enough, go all the way through to play NRL.
Yeah, it's the only club, right?
Yeah, only club in the NRL, and they've got a lot of good juniors, 15, 16, 17. So all those guys are going to come in and be the future, and even the guys that are training with us now on development contracts and training trials, most of them are locals. With a few good kids from around the NRL. Those guys in 5-10 years, they're going to be the future of Redcliffe, and I guess how us older guys sort of show the way now, will help them for the rest of their career, because I know that's what happened to me.
Yeah, I think that's one of the annoying things that I hear, like from the media as well. Like you've heard it, they always talk about the players not signing this person, missing out on this gun, but the goal's not to launch and put all your heart into a 2023 season.
And win the comp straight away. Like you got to build. You
got to build the club, and Redcliffe have the juniors for it. Obviously, they've taken the right approach in my eyes to get a senior roster, lay the platform, and then develop all these youthful players that will eventually be guns in a few years' time. Is that how you see it as well?
It's definitely, the way they've gone. Obviously we want to have success straight away. And I think Wayne, secretly is loving the fact that everyone's writing us off, and it means that we have no, there's no expectation on us next year, and we can sort of just go out and rip in and try and do our best. But they've definitely got an eye for the future, and I guess there always needed to be a second Brisbane team, because there is so much talent up here, and it means a lot of young kids around here don't have to move away now. And I've already realised there's a lot of fans up here that don't like the Broncos, so they just jump on the bandwagon because there's a team that isn't the Broncos now in Brisbane, so that's exciting too.
Is there any young kid that may make their debut this year that we should look out for? Because we play SuperCoach and we're always looking for like a nice cheapie. Yeah,
I think Isaiah Katoa showed a little bit in the World Cup, but I think he for a young guy, he's pretty level-headed, and physically he's got all the attributes of a first grader, and I think eventually he'll get a chance this year and show everyone what he can do. I think he's one to look out for, definitely.
Do you reckon he'll be kicking goals? Any inside word?
I don't know, actually. I might have to put my hand up and say.
Have you ever kicked any goals?
I kicked a couple in Toyota Cup.
No way.
This is back in the day now, but I won we had like a shoot off at training during the week, and Dukes and Croaks had just gone up from our 20s team to start playing regular first grade, and so we sort of lost two kickers back to back, and then both our halfbacks our halfback and 5'8" were in doubt for the weekend. So the coach was like, if they don't play, we don't really have a kicker. So we had a shoot off, and then like 5 minutes into the game, our 5'8" got injured, and so I actually had to kick. I was sort of
had to
No way. And you were playing front row at the time?
I was playing on the edge. And so I kicked all right because I didn't there was no expectation, I guess. So I kicked 4 from 6, I think it was, and then the next week I missed one from pretty much in front, and we had a draw, so I got the sack.
Lost your kicking license after that.
Yeah.
It's not your fault. It's not your fault. But that would have been incredible for SuperCoach. Imagine a front rower that can kick goals. But we played every year. Do you ever check your SuperCoach or fantasy scores? And if you do you ever try and throw the odd offload here and there?
No, I know when I've had a good game because someone will message you. So thanks for getting the fantasy points up there. But unfortunately, as you said, there's a lot of points in being a tackle breaker and an offloader, and I don't really do either of them. So it's always nice when you score a try because you know you're going to get good fantasy points for that.
Yeah, 100%. You broke a 5-year try-scoring drought with South Sydney in 2020 against the Newcastle Knights in round 10. What memories do you have of that game and your drought-breaking try?
I think it was. I sort of came on, in the second half, and we weren't going real well. I think we were down by 2 or 3 tries. So I sort of scored and was stoked to score a try, but then couldn't really celebrate because we were losing and there wasn't long left in the game. So we had this miracle comeback. But yeah, as I said, I was just happy to get off the Nudie because I had a disallowed one earlier in the year. I think Renault had put like a kick in and it had ricocheted off the opposition player, and I was clearly offside, but the ball was like right there in front of me, and I haven't scored a try in 5 years. So, diving to put it down, I can hear Ethan Lowe behind me going like, "Leave it," because he was going to score the try.
No bloody way.
But yeah, it was like a kid that's told not to eat the candy and then left in the room by himself. I just couldn't help myself. It was right there, and I was happy to get a try. Always happy to score tries.
Does the Nudie run actually exist? Do they make you do it at training, or is it something else?
No, I think it certainly existed early in my career, but it's sort of been knocked on the head over time. Unfortunately, with camera phones and I guess political correctness, it's sort of been I guess dead and buried, but it's always fun to give banter to whoever has about the Nudie run that they have to do, but it never ends up happening.
Never happens.
Yeah, it's probably a bit of a motivator, I guess. But you have the best nickname in the game, the GOAT. Everyone wants to know, where did it come from and who gave it to you?
Oh, it's a bit of a funny story, but it came from when I first came to South. That first year with Steve's sort of playing off the bench, and a few fans on Instagram and Facebook and whatnot used to sort of just like rip into me after games and sort of say I was taking a spot in the team and stealing the spot from someone, and then sort of throughout the next season under Wayne when I played almost every game, and a few other fans sort of started sticking up for me, and someone obviously sarcastically said he's the GOAT, leave him alone. And then it sort of just snowballed from there. And I remember the start of the 21 season, and my brother-in-law was like, there's heaps of fans that like on the Instagram that call you the GOAT. And he's like all the time whenever they put a post up of you. And then obviously that year I sort of had a great year. We went on a run to the grand final. I scored those 2 tries against the Roosters, and it just sort of exploded. And I guess the social media team jumped on board, and all the boys sort of, I guess, jumped on board as well. And originally I sort of was a bit, don't call me that, like it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
Clearly not the greatest of all time.
Now you embraced it.
But yeah, with nicknames, obviously the more you sort of fight them at the start, the more they seem to stick. And now I've definitely embraced it. I've actually got a beer coming out in a couple of weeks called the Flippin' Goat. So
really?
No way.
Yeah.
What type of beer is it?
It's just a bit of a lager.
Okay.
I'm told it's similar to a sort of Great Northern.
Okay.
Pretty easy drinking, and I'm sort of just finalising the design now, but it's a goat riding a dolphin. So
Oh, that's sick. We'll definitely have to plug that on our socials.
yeah.
It's the goat beer. The goat beer for goats.
I'm hoping to get it online in a couple of weeks. So
You have to send some over. We'll do a review or something and shout you out in the story.
Yes, good.
Perfect. You touched on Wayne Bennett and how he sort of gave you that chance and you played some great footy under him. As a player, your form was just exponential, just kept getting better and better, especially in the 21 season. So how did it feel to be coached by one of the best in rugby league, and how did it influence you off and on the field?
Yeah, I've told this story, a few times now, but I still remember when Wayne, was sort of announced that Wayne was coming to the club just before Christmas, and we'd had the whole thing with, Steve's leaving and Wayne coming, and I wasn't sort of, I sort of considered myself, not the flashiest player and a bit of a worker, and I looked at that Broncos team that he was coming from, and it was full of young, powerful, aggressive forwards, and I guess I was a bit worried. I knew from Raiders that Sean Fenson was there and wasn't getting a run, and I guess considered myself a similar sort of player, maybe just a little bit taller than Fenno, but when Wayne came, I think we had about a week or two before Christmas, and then a week after the Christmas break, sort of like mid-January, and we had a team meeting, and then he sort of said to me and Junior Totola, can you two stay in after the meeting? And he said, I've watched every game from last season now. I've watched you guys train now for a couple of weeks. And he said, you're both NRL players. I don't care what's happened, before now and who previously coached you and whatever. But he goes, I've been around long enough to know you two guys are NRL players. And he said, I'm going to pick you both for round one off the bench to play front row. He said, I don't care what happens between now and then, the trials. But he basically said, you've got 8 weeks till round one. You're there, so you don't have to worry about it. Just start training like you're the first grade players that you are. And, I guess for me, I'd always been on the fringe, not knowing whether I was going to be in the team. And even when I was in the team, not knowing when I was going to get the tap on the shoulder to say, mate, you're going back to reserve grade. So to have someone like Wayne come out, so far from round one and just sort of say, I don't care what happens, I'm going to pick you. It just, gave me some belief. And, from then on, I just sort of didn't want to let him down. And, Junior was obviously the same. From that point on, 3 years later, we were both starting in a grand final. And, he went it to another level last year. So I guess it just shows what Wayne can do to a player and the belief and confidence he can put in him.
100%, and he was right because the power combo between you and Totola proved massive for that 21 run. Even the 22 season, when you were even out for a bit, form sort of dipped in the forwards, just a bit of go forward. But he was obviously right. Totola's been incredible.
Yeah, he was our player of the year, wasn't he?
Yeah, he won George Piggins, so he had a great year.
Jesus. So we know Wayne Bennett he's the people's person. Like, what does he do off the field, like behind closed doors that we don't know about? Like, what's your best memory of Wayne?
Because he doesn't let on too much to the media. He's a bit of a straight-faced operator.
Mate, he doesn't give much away, but he actually just enjoys being around the boys. I remember when he first came, we had lunch, and we sort of always train in the morning at South, come off the field, get lunch, and sort of eat in our locker room. And Wayne came in and sort of started eating his lunch, and everyone went real quiet because there's like the teachers in there, and he was sort of like, what's going on? Like, you can talk about what you do on the weekend. I don't care. Like, I want to know what he's got up to. And then he just enjoys sort of being around the boys and knowing what's going on in everyone's life. And I guess that's how he works out, what makes players tick and how he needs to coach them. And, one thing that probably people don't know is he actually, loves getting in the gym.
Does he?
Yeah, he reps out like 80 kilos on the bench press. He's actually pretty strong. He gets
That's better than me.
He gets on the chin-ups, but it's funny because if the boys are in there and playing bad music, he sort of comes in and unplugs the music if he doesn't like it. And then if he was sort of like mid-bench, he sort of just like puts on what he wants to lift, and then he just He doesn't care if
He owns the joint. What does he listen to, Wayne?
Get around and go, oh, okay, we'll wait till Wayne finishes to continue our.
What does he listen to in the gym? What's his go-to playlist?
Nah, it's got to be like country or from like 60s or 70s. That he gets filthy.
Classic Wayne.
Obviously, he was a massive part in taking South Sydney, our team, to the grand final. Did you ever anticipate playing in a grand final when you first joined South and becoming a starting player eventually? Was that always in mind?
Oh, definitely not to be a starting player, but I remember when I signed at South. I looked at the team and there was still like 8 or 9 guys that had won that grand final in 2014 that were still in the team, and I still thought that we'd played them the year before. One of the games that I had played for Melbourne the year before was against South, and they had they were really strong through the forwards. So I knew coming to South there was still a good team there. And as it turned out, there is a good team there, and played 4 prelims and a GF in the 5 years I was at South. We just couldn't quite get over the last hurdle there. But yeah, there's still going to be a good team there this year because a lot of the guys that were there, it's pretty much only me going, so I don't think they're going to miss too much. Big Dave will take over, or Humme or someone like that.
Davey's incredible for a young kid. Adrian's actually got a story.
Yeah.
He tackled him against the wall once and made him cry.
Apparently, I'm the only person who made him cry. We were playing knee footy when we were like 7 or something. And I just drilled him into the wall head first, and he was like boring his eyes out. So I got that over him.
Yeah,
he actually squished me now. He's huge.
Literally, that's it. What can you remember about the 21 grand final?
Let me get the tissues 1 sec.
Yeah, let's cry.
Mate, it's funny. Like the end's just a bit of a blur. Luckily, I had my daughter at the time, and just remember sort of cuddling her. I haven't gone back and watched it.
Neither have we.
You'd feel sick.
Yeah, I remember the start. It was just so quick. It was the quickest game I'd played ever, and I felt like I'd sort of just got out there, and then then all of a sudden I was off. When we scored that try in the corner, when I kicked this for sure.
On his good side, like eats that for breakfast.
He did it all year. Oh, it's not his fault.
We can't blame him.
It hurts.
No, it's not his fault. But I guess the memory that sort of sticks with me now too is like it was just it was a bit weird because we were in the bubble in Queensland, and I just think like how hectic it would have been if we played that grand final in Sydney and had Redfern and
would have gone off.
All the South fans. We sort of, I guess, got a glimpse of it through sort of Instagram and people painting their houses and stuff like that. But I think it would have been another level if we were there. But to get to a grand final and nearly win, as you said, when I came to South, I would have taken that straight away. So
is that the highlight of your playing career so far?
Oh, it's sort of I guess a highlight and a low light in the same token because I guess for a guy been on the fringe for so long to then start in a grand final and it's hard not to be a highlight, but then it's sort of don't want to remember it.
It's frustrating as well because obviously you were at the club and us watching as fans. So many prelims. Like if you said to anyone, hey, would you want your team to be in the top 4 every season for the next 5 years?
Yeah.
It's so bittersweet because you see where some teams at the bottom would kill to be where Souths are.
But,
he just hurts.
Knocked out by Panthers 3 years in a row. Doesn't sit well either.
Even this year, like I know I've started here at the Dolphins, but a few players have said, you guys had them on the ropes at 12-0, and I was like, oh no.
Don't remind us.
Especially short of Sullivan's probably given you some.
Yeah, even that year down, in 19 when we went down to Canberra, I was sort of so confident going into that we were going to win.
Against your old club as well. That would have helped more.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the thing with losing all those prelims is we didn't go into any of them as favourites, but it would have been nice to jag one of them and a grand final. But anyway,
no more sadness. No more
100%.
sadness. Let's
bring it back up.
Let's bring it back up. So you played with and against some great players. Who chats the most shit on the rugby league field? As we know, you played with Cody Walker and Reynolds, who by all reports are the biggest pests at any club. But who talks the most shit or gives in to you
on the field?
I'm not too sure. I guess anyone who's played those two probably says them too. But no one. It's like to be fair, the NRL is so quick these days. Like, and everyone sort of knows everyone too. Like, there's like 1 degree of separation between every player because most players have been to heaps of clubs. But there's sort of always stuff said that's sort of just forgotten about by the end of the game. You shake hands and say good luck for the rest of the year. But
what happens on the field stays on the field. Yeah,
that's what I think. So no one that I've remembered and gone, that guy talks a lot of crap. Will Chambers maybe.
Everyone always says Chambers. He's always up.
Yeah, he was actually pretty good. Especially when I was at Melbourne and when you're on his team, it's pretty funny. I guess it's the same. If you're on their team, it's all right.
It's all right.
100%. Let's touch a bit on your early career. Like, how did you get into footy? Was it always an ambition of yours? Did you grow up playing footy?
Yeah, I started when I was 4.
Wow.
Grew up in Leeton, and my dad played first grade, for the local Leeton Greenies, and my uncle played as well. So mum's brother, and my pa was sort of like president of the club and used to paint the lines on a Sunday morning, and my nan and pop were both major sponsors, so sort of like rugby league was just everything. And back then, there wasn't as much coverage on TV, so you had to wait for like a delayed game on a Friday night. And I was, as a young guy, I was in bed, and then, on Sunday I was down watching my dad and my uncle play instead of the 4 o'clock game on a Sunday. So, sort of like, I remember, being a young kid, all I wanted to do was play for the Greenies because that's what my dad and uncle did. And it wasn't until I sort of, I guess, hit my teen years that I realised there was an NRL, and that was probably a bit more of a pinnacle than playing Leeton Greenies.
Did it come natural to you? Like, were you always a big body forward? Always had a motor, that sort of thing?
Oh, yeah, I was always tall. I think I've got like a photo when I'm in under 12s, and there's sort of like a row of kids like on one knee, and then there's a second row of kids standing up. There's me and my dad just standing at the back, and I'm sort of like
child.
Pretty much as tall as dad, but I was just like skin and bone. When I first started at Canberra in like under 15s or under 16s, I was 15 when I started, and they wanted me to put weight on, and one of the things that they told me to do was like put skim milk powder in everything that I had with.
Really?
So like I put skim milk powder like on my Wheat Bix and in my smoothies. I've still got mates from school now that just like pay me out about my skim milk powder and how it never worked. But
were you ever in the back line, or were you always a forward?
No, because I always played edge back row.
Okay.
So I pretty much like every year from when I was about 15 to like 22 or 23, I always managed to play like 1 or 2 games in the centres.
Yes.
But I once I made the move.
Too much powder.
Yeah, way too much powder for the centres.
I was maybe like a Campbell Graham, but about half a week. Once I sort of, I guess it was the reason I probably played edge was because I was like tall and skinny, but the speed. Eventually I got to the point at the Raiders where Dave Furner sort of sat me down one off season. I think it might have been my first year out of 20s, and said, I just don't see you playing first grade on an edge because you're not quick enough and you're not powerful enough. He sort of just said, if you're going to play NRL, it's going to be in the middle. So we're going to start training you there this pre-season. And that next year, I sort of played a bit of edge and a bit of middle. And then later in the year, they had a few injuries in the front row. So I debuted off the bench in front row and sort of didn't look back from there.
Amazing. What do you remember from your debut? Obviously, it's a bit of a while ago now, but what can you remember?
Well, I remember just like the relief of getting there, I guess, because you sort of, from about 17, 18, I realised it's probably some possibility to get to the NRL, but still had a lot of hard work. So by the time I sort of got there at 22, it was just more of a relief, I guess, that you're going to live out your childhood dream. And like anyone says, they just want to play one game. So to get told that you're going to play that one game is pretty exciting. And then we actually, we sort of weren't going real well at the Raiders. We were sort of like last or second last. We were playing a Dragons team that had sort of won a comp a couple of years before that. Sort of like Ben Hornby, Matt Cooper, Gaznia, like all those guys. And there I was, running out 20 minutes into the game to.
That's surreal.
Yeah, and then we sort of went on a bit of a run, and ended up making the finals from like last to second last, which you sort of don't really see that often anymore. And it was like by the end I was sort of like, this is so easy, this first grade business. I'm going to play 10 years and make $500,000 every year, but the reality sort of hit a couple of years later. But yeah, no, it was just such a enjoyable ride that first year, and I was going to have great memories of it.
Yeah, that's good. But then after that, it took you a few years to get into the groove and get like actual time in first grade. Was there ever a bit of head noise, ever self-doubt? Did you ever want to quit during those years or anything?
Yeah, it's probably a good 5 years between that debut year and when I ended up at South, and I sort of got a bit frustrated at Canberra. I never really doubted my ability to play first grade because I felt like whenever I played first grade, I handled it. And whenever I played reserve grade, I was one of the better players on the paddock. So I sort of knew that I was there or thereabouts. I guess sometimes there was a couple of times there where I questioned whether it was worth it. Sort of rocking up every day for that grind and trying to prove yourself week in, week out, and then sort of not really getting the chances that you think you deserve. That became quite frustrating at Canberra, and then in the end, that's why I made the decision to leave. I could have stayed at Canberra and I guess stayed where I was comfortable, but I wasn't sort of getting played. So I had the opportunity to sort of go to a couple other clubs, and one of them was Melbourne, and it was the worst deal on the table at the time. But I just I was 25 and I sort of felt like I hadn't proven myself yet as an NRL player, and the best place to do that was Melbourne, who sort of, for years I've been watching guys like in my position go down there and play Origin. So I thought, that could be me, let's give it a go.
Yeah.
And luckily at that stage I didn't have a missus or kids to consider. I sort of could just make that decision myself and take the worst deal on the table and just see what happens. And, in the end I went down there and I definitely improved as a footy player because that's just what
100%.
the club and organisation does. But, I didn't play as much first grade as I probably would have liked. I think I only played 9 games in sort of 2 years, and I probably would have said that was a failure if I'd looked at that when I was going down there. But it was hard not to get, it's hard to get frustrated when I was down there because they played a grand final, won a grand final, and pretty much all the front rowers were playing Origin or New Zealand. So I was, a tough team to crack into.
Yeah, exactly. As you said, like everyone who goes to Melbourne suddenly becomes a gun. Is it the system? Is it Bellamy? What do you put it down to?
I think it's a bit of, it's the combination. It's, Craig's obviously a great coach, and, they're a well-oiled machine, and the organisation's run well. And can you hear that?
Yeah. Is that your little girl?
Yeah, it's the little one.
How old is she now?
4 months. So
4 months.
Wow, fresh.
You have 2 kids, right?
Yeah, I think the toddlers down there probably stirring her up. It's obviously that's what the Storm have done well for 20 odd years, and I was glad that by the time I'd got to Southside, I improved as a footy player, which I guess is all you can ask for. In anything you do, and so I went to South confident that I was a better player, and there was a chance to play some first grade there, and I just had to prove it. And in the end, I probably achieved more than even I thought I was going to.
100%. It works well for your career. In terms of Melbourne Storm and their training rituals, they always do the army camp at the preseason. Did you have to do that?
Yeah.
Is it a nightmare?
It is tough. It's like, they just, you don't sleep for 2 nights. So that's probably the thing that I struggle with the most. But, in saying that, you sort of, everyone who's new to the club has to do it. So, I did it with guys like Scott Drinkwater, who were straight out of school, and I'd sort of done a few at the Raiders. So, I guess every time I was struggling, I just looked at a couple of the younger kids that were sort of straight out of school and just left mum and dad's house and realised I wasn't doing that bad.
What was the toughest thing they made you do during those 2 nights, 3 days?
It's like the not sleeping is the tough thing. The second night, you sort of had to do like a silent walk, and you got like a heavy backpack on, and you just like walking the same track, and it felt like we were doing it for hours, and like you're looking up at the sky and you think like, I can see the sun coming up, but it's not. It's like you go for another hour and you're like, no, the sun's not coming up.
You're just hallucinating, seeing things.
Pretty much, yeah. And then we sort of finished that, and they gave us like a Mars bar and a can of Coke, and then took us out to like bush and just like dropped you off like one by one, and sort of said, you got to stand guard and don't fall asleep. If we catch you, there'll be penalties, and you let your team down and stuff like that. And so you sort of like every noise you like, they give you like a fake gun, and you sort of like, what is that? But because they give you the Coke and the like Mars bar, you sort of like at the first half an hour it's easy. You're like sort of buzzing.
Got a sugar high.
Yeah, you sort of like crash and you haven't slept for 2 nights, and you're sort of like, oh wow, I'm smuggling. But it's funny, they sort of say like it's the same guys that have been running it ever since Craig was there, and they do like a report at the end of the camp about sort of what sort of, I guess, person and character you have, and attributes that you can bring to the Storm. And Craig sort of said they haven't been wrong about blokes. There's probably only a couple of blokes that they've got wrong in his time there. Talking about a couple hundred players. So it's interesting.
You have to be resilient throughout camp. We see you do a lot of good things in the community, like you talk to universities, companies. What sort of message do you try and present to them?
Yeah, I think I just sort of talk about my career and just I guess the adversity that I faced early on and how sometimes I didn't handle it the best. And then just sort of try to talk about having a bit more of a positive and growth mindset to setbacks, because we all have them in sport, in life. It doesn't matter who you are or what you do, you have setbacks. It's just the nature of life, and sometimes how you react to them determines how quickly you get over it and move on. And I tell a story of early in my career at the Raiders. It was after my rookie year, and I'd had a really good preseason. Sort of trained really good. I'd sort of got a bit stronger and stuff like that, and got through the trials, and Dave Ferner had said, I'm going to pick you ahead of, I don't know who yet, but I'm going to pick you ahead of Tom Leroy, Lars, or Brett White. I'm going to play one in reserve grade for round 1, and you're going to be the other front rower. And I was sort of like, wow, like they both sort of just played Origin. This is pretty big for me. And we played round 1 at Penrith and got like beaten by 40. And and then sort of like, Dave's come into the review and said, I'm going to change the team. If we get the same performance this week. And then we played the Titans up there. It was like 45 degrees. And they were always talking about calling the game off. It was so hot. And then and we got pumped again by like another 30 or 40 points.
God.
You knew the hook was coming.
Yeah, but both games had sort of only played like 15 minutes.
So it wasn't your fault.
Yeah, so we're going to Monday review meeting, and he sort of says, like I said, I'm going to make changes. So I'm going to make changes, and he sort of drops one player from the team, and it's the guy who's played the least amount of minutes, and is like the youngest guy on the team, and it was me. And so I was filthy. I was like, clearly not my fault. Like, drop one of the guys that's getting paid $500,000 and plays 80 minutes. if you want to drop someone. But I just sort of like, I remember it was the Wednesday night. It used to be union night at Canberra. I was like, stuff this, I'm going out. And then like Saturday I played reserve grade and was like, oh, I'm going to go out again. I was sort of young and single and kicking stones, but it sort of like continued on for a couple of weeks, and then I sort of got in this habit of like not trying as much as at training, and always try to make the coach feel sorry for me, but like he's moved on weeks ago. He's made this. He doesn't care, like and in the end, the thing that sort of like after about 4 or 5 weeks of this, and by this stage I was playing terrible in reserve grade, and there was finally an injury in the front row, and I thought, it's my chance to get back in the team. And he picked, who's my good mate at the time, or he's still a good mate, but good mate at the time, Paul Vaughan, to make his debut. And that was sort of, I guess, the reality check I needed, that football moves so quick. If you're kicking stones and worried about yourself, it doesn't matter. Like someone else will come and take
you said that they've moved on.
That's crazy. One week you're starting, and 2 weeks later you're back in reserve grade, and they don't even consider you after that. It's pretty tough.
Yeah. So I just sort of talk about that, and if I had a positive mindset and sort of said, well, instead of sort of, I guess, trying to make the coach feel sorry for me, instead of say, well, I'll show you, I could have been back in the team in a couple of weeks and never looked back. But after that, a couple of weeks after that, I sort of broke my arm and I was out, season-ending injury. I was out for like 16 weeks, and the season had gone from such a high to work so hard to get to the point where I was going to play ahead of an Origin player, and then by the end of the year I've missed more than half the year with injury, and don't know when I'm going to play first grade again.
How quickly can turn around.
Yeah, just as I said, I sort of learned down in Melbourne a bit more about having a positive mindset, and took it to South, and I felt it just worked well for me. So sort of the message I try and get across, if someone's willing to book me as a guest speaker.
That's really good. It's great that you do that for the community.
Yeah, that's a great message. We also want to know, did you look up to any players when you were growing up, or did you mould your game based on anyone? You mentioned Sean Fenton before. Was there anyone else?
Because apparently all the youngsters these days are looking up to the GOAT. They want to be the next GOAT.
It's humbling to know there's some kids out there that want to be the GOAT. I guess I was an edge back rower, and I used to always love watching Ryan Hoffman play at the school. I sort of thought I could play a bit like him. I remember when I was in SG Ball, and my coach had said, you've got more talent than Joe Picker had at his age, and Joey was playing first grade on the edge outside Campo, and that was when Terry Campese was sort of like unstoppable, and I think for that sort of just sort of lit a fuse, I guess, a little bit in me. I went home and printed off a picture of Joey playing first grade and put it on my wall. I guess, as I said, it was about 17, 18 when I realised that it was, a possibility to play NRL, and from then that's all I wanted to do. And I guess when I sort of started playing first grade, someone I remember looking at and really admiring how he played was Jesse Bromwich. So when I ended up at Melbourne under him, I was just, I was blown away. He just had it, everything for a front row. He could step you, over top of you, could pass.
And now Redcliffe together. How good.
Yeah. So, it'll be good to play some footy with him next year.
He's a very hard player to tackle. Who's the hardest player for you in the NRL to tackle?
Well, I don't know, probably like someone like Taumalolo's always pretty tough. He's sort of low to the ground. He's got good footwork, but he's also got good leg speed, so he can get on top of you pretty quickly. But I probably cop the most crap from my mates for from trying to tackle Sean Johnson in the nines. There was a year I was playing for the Raiders in the nines, and Sean Johnson stepped like the whole team, but there ended up being a photo of me like on the ground and completely missed him. And
Oh,
it ended up being like the front photo for the program the next year. So rocked up the next year, and there's this like memory of that I've tried to erase on the front of the program. But the funny thing was, we played the Warriors, and I'd missed him again, and there was like an identical photo. The only way you could tell the difference was that the kits were completely different, but otherwise it was like the exact same. Me on the ground and him just running past me
for air.
Yeah,
stepped by SJ. You're not the first one to get stepped by him.
Nah, and especially in the nines.
Nines, he was
so much
beast.
room. He has so many highlight reels.
The game was made for him.
And unfortunately, you were one of them.
What about at South Sydney? Someone like Latrell Mitchell. You see how damaging he is on the field. Did you ever have to try and tackle him?
Does he go hard at training? Or does he just save for the field?
He doesn't even go hard, but he's still hard to tackle. Like he's only doing 50%, and he still can't get onto him. But
his upper body strength's ridiculous.
Yeah, he's actually like so quick. So and he is like so barrel chested. So you sort of try and go low, and he can fend or step, or he can use his legs, like his power in his legs to just bump you. But then if you go up top, you're like completely no chance.
Literally.
So yeah, he is very hard to tackle, Latrell.
He's probably one of the best players you played with, but you also have played with a few other guns. Who is your favourite to play alongside?
Oh, geez, it'd be tough to say off the top of my head. One, Latrell was just one of them special players, a bit like Sammy Burgess. They just, when you're in the sheds getting dressed and ready to go play footy, and you see him, getting dressed beside you, it's, you just gives you that bit more confidence. But I also played with only a couple of games, but with Cam, Coops, and Billy.
Future immortals.
Yeah, and I just remember one time we sort of had a penalty, and Coops was like, called the set that he wanted to put on, and he sort of like within like 5 seconds quickly like rearranged me, Nelson, and whoever else was in the middle at the time, so that like we all would have our best carry. And he sort of was like, you go play one, you go play two, you play three, you get the decoy here. And like, it was all like, he'd said it in like 5 seconds, but all three of us understood what he wanted. And I remember thinking, like he's playing this game 5 minutes ahead of everyone else. Like,
you see it in sports as well. He's just so much smarter than the whole panel. And you get home, you're like, what did he just say?
Yeah, exactly. And then he had Cam Smith was able to execute it, and then when he finally gets the play that he wants, and he's got Billy out the back.
Perfect.
Incredible.
That was sort of unbelievable, them three.
Do you have any like superstitions or pre-game rituals you do every game?
Oh, my wife would probably say I do, but
what would she say?
She'd probably say I have to eat spag bowl, but
carb load.
Yeah, I guess it's like something from your childhood. I know a lot of the boys, sort of got the same. To the point that now, when we have away games, that spag bowl is one of the options because I guess a lot of us grew up as kids eating, that old the old theory of carbo loading. Spag bowl is, I guess, one of those meals that you can cook pretty quickly and pretty cheaply, and it still tastes pretty good. Doesn't matter how bad you are. So, it seems to be a footballer's choice of cuisine the night before a game.
Do you wear any like special undies that you have to wear every time, or music you have to listen to?
No, I think in general, I sort of just like if I play a good game, I sort of stick to the same routine. I guess probably routine's my superstition. What is your routine? But then I guess it just like it sort of changes because it has to change. Like you can't. Yeah. But I always sort of like try and get to the ground early. Always try and have an ice bath and a hot shower just to wake myself up. And it sort of changed. Like sometimes I'm like, I have to get a massage, and then other times I'm like, no, I have to strap at this time. It's sort of. If I do it good, if I do something and I play good, then I sort of try and...
You do it again.
Yeah, stick to the winning formula.
But then I don't, I sort of don't lose my mind if it doesn't happen. If sort of, if I'm on the team bus and I can't get to the ground 2 hours and 3 before the game, then I'm not going to stress about
Isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
Some players.
Okay, I think it's time for my favourite segment, this or that. So it's pretty much would you rather. We ripped it off. You just got to pick a side here, and maybe just give a reasoning why you choose that.
Short
side.
reasoning and go with it.
Okay, first one. This or that. Score the match-winning try in a grand final or win the Clive Churchill medal.
Oh, match-winning try.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good. This or that. Win 5 comps at all different clubs or 3 comps at the same club.
Probably. Geez, that's a tough one. Probably 3 comps at one club would be pretty special. I'm just thinking of the logistics of having to move to 5 different clubs.
Yeah, exactly. We've already done 3, so 2 more wouldn't hurt.
Yeah.
3 comps at South wouldn't be too shabby. Another one. Be careful what you answer here. Rabbitohs or Dolphins?
We stitched you up here.
I have to say Dolphins. They're paying the bills.
Oh, think about all the opportunity we gave you. No, that's a fair answer. This or that. A house is burning down. Inside is Adam Reynolds and Cody Walker. You can only save one. Who do you save?
Oh no. Can I say neither?
Just let it go down.
You can for this one.
Yeah. Let's let it burn.
This or that. Inglis or Slater?
What was that?
Inglis or Slater?
Oh. Gee. Probably. I mean, on my team, probably Billy, but who I don't want to tackle, probably Greggy.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
Fair.
I like that. So you've only just moved to Dolphins from the Rabbitohs. Would you rather fight 30 rabbits or 3 dolphins?
3 dolphins, I think.
3 dolphins.
Yeah, easy.
Perfect.
Easy.
That's this. Look,
Rabbits are vicious.
they're vicious. Exactly.
They're crazy.
Look, we are conscious of time, and we thank you for coming on. We just have one quiz left, the Mark Nicholls GOAT quiz. We do it with all our guests to see how well they know their career and their milestones. So, how confident are you?
I should get 4 surely.
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
There's 7, so 50% to pass. First question: who did you score your first try against?
Bulldogs.
And do you remember the rounds for bonus?
It was about round 23.
Oh, it's the
20.
last round 25.
25.
Yep.
Yeah,
We give you the point there.
It's funny, like over time, I hadn't seen the try in like probably the 5 years that I hadn't scored a try, and in my head I felt like I'd run like 15 metres to score, and then I finally saw a replay of it, and I literally caught the ball and
You fell over.
Just a crash ball.
Yeah, it was the fullback had dropped the ball.
Oh,
The
right.
fullback dropped the bomb like right on the try line, and I literally just scooped up the dregs
put
of
it
it.
down.
Yeah, they're all worth 4 points. You got to claim that.
So like in my head, I had pictured like running from like 15 metres out.
4 tackle breaks and diving over.
Yeah, but no, it didn't happen like that.
Second question: most tackles you've ever made in an NRL game?
35.
Oh, 1 off.
1 off, 36, and it was against Manly Seagulls in round 2 in 2021.
That's pretty good.
I think it was
half point. Give him a half
I'll
point
go
for
half
that.
point for that. It was close enough.
That's pretty good.
Number 3, in your 100th game against the Bulldogs in round 18 to 2021, you scored a try in the 73rd minute. Do you remember who created the try assist?
Fernsey.
Yes,
Ding,
nailed
ding,
it.
ding. It was the left edge play made from a cutout from none other than Cody Walker.
Yeah, and then Hosty thought he was getting the.
That was
Yeah.
the best, and you plucked it out of the air.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's the Okay, doing well so far. Not too bad. So, question number 4. You played 128 games throughout your career so far. How many of them have been wins?
Oh, more than half. So
Definitely, yeah.
Yep.
maybe 80.
Ooh,
Higher.
85 wins.
85.
Which is a 66.41 percentage of wins. That's
not
why you're the
bad.
GOAT. That's pretty fucking good.
Yeah. Take that.
Yeah, 100%.
This one might stump you, it might not. I was actually surprised. So, what jersey number have you played the most NRL games in?
15.
Number
Yeah.
15, that's correct. Do you know how many you've played? Not part of the question, but
Bonus point.
You can try. At
Geez, that'd be-
120. We got the exact number.
Maybe 50.
46. Close enough. Interesting enough, you've actually played every number in the forward pack except 11 and 12. You've played 8, 10, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 and 18.
Yeah, which is pretty crazy considering you grew up playing second row.
Yeah.
One position.
Can't jack.
There's still time. There's still time.
There's still time.
Ask Wayne to put you in the 11 jersey round 1.
That's it. I'll get onto it.
All right, next one. Most minutes you've ever played in an NRL game.
Probably that Manly game. Or it might even have been my tattoo
If I tell
game.
you the game, it might spark a memory. St. George, round 20, 2021.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe 58 minutes.
Oh, 55.
Too
You're not
ambitious
too far
there.
off.
That was close.
Come on, you can't play 58, Mark. Come on. 55.
Yeah, felt like 58.
Yeah, probably felt like an hour.
And the last one, obviously, you are the GOAT. What's the average life expectancy of a goat?
Ooh. How do they?
Well, there's a 2-year buffer here. So.
Yeah.
10 years?
Yeah, 10 years. So
Jesus,
you've
so-
tripled the life expectancy of a goat.
That's it. Wow.
No,
maybe after 10 years, people just will forget me and stop calling me the goat.
I don't think so.
Well, you smashed that. You got definitely over
Yeah,
50%.
you definitely passed there. I think you got 4.5 or 5, so you nailed your career.
But yeah, we want to thank you very much for coming on the Cast Patrol podcast. You've been very generous with your time and given great insight across your playing career at the Raiders, Storm and South Sydney and now Redcliffe Dolphins.
Yeah, thanks, boys. Thanks for having me on.
No worries.
I'll be sure to send you some beers.
Oh, you better. I'll be holding you to that.
Yeah, and we wish you the very best with the Redcliffe Dolphins in their inaugural 2023 season.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
the best. Thanks,
See you,
Mark.
All right. See you, lads.